All right. It's October 30th. Getting kind of a late start today. Blew a bunch of time playing chess, losing chess. Man, losing is so much worse than winning. It's obviously it's worse, but it's like comparatively way worse. Winning doesn't feel that good, but losing feels really, really bad. So it doesn't really make up for it. In a way, you could say that's a net loss. I mean, the way I'm describing it, that's like actually factually a loss. But I don't know, maybe there's some like small ego points for winning. All right, so what I was doing just now, really? All right, what I was doing just now is using this PM2 to try and set up my server. So, first, biggest problem is that when my SSH session uh, times out, or like when I close my computer and this thing disconnects, then the process that it was running, which was the live server, just craps out completely. And so that's no bueno. If you want a website to exist without your presence, like you got to use this thing, which is kind of wild for like a server program to operate that way by default, where it's like, okay, well, so here's this whole thing that I've installed, which could completely rape my entire server, like steal all my code or data, or has pretty much full access to the whole system. So I don't usually like installing external dependencies, but when in Rome. So I did and had some major issues from the beginning. First of all, I forgot that I needed to add my node environment equals production variable, because otherwise it doesn't run. My code is set up to look for this node environment equals production variable in order to serve on secure socket or secure HTTPS rather than, and port 443 rather than regular port 80. So I added that and it still didn't work because it was still, I had to like do a net stat and figure out that it was still running on port 80 here. It kept, and so I killed this process. Like computer Gemini walked me through killing this process, and it was still, look, sudo kill. And then when I did it again, it was still running, but it changed the process ID. So it went from this 487 to 652. So essentially, this PM2, and by the way, the PM2, which the computer told me to do PM2 list to show the processes that it was actively kind of managing and kind of automatically restarting like that. And so it showed nothing. I was like, interesting. I'm not sure exactly why. Like after I had told it to do its thing, it wasn't it wasn't on there because I kind of expected it to be. But well, it turns out that PM2 and pseudo PM2 are like different users, and so like the entire list of services is different, which is kind of wild because it probably just saves its data to a different spot, and so it thinks it's completely different system or whatever. And so learned a little bit there about how these things work, which is nuanced and probably will never remember. But yeah, the shit gets just so complicated. It's ridiculous how stupid it is. Well, it's just poor design. It's like whoever like was thinking this through. I mean, it's sort of like, an innovation that can't really solve the entire problem. It's everybody's solving little problems one at a time. So I guess the frustration is that the big picture is just a big jumbled mess of pieces. Life works. Maybe someday, God willing, I can fix some of this stuff. Well, so yeah, the gist was I had to like stop the Oh, and okay, so the other thing was is even after I did the sudo node environment and tried to restart it this way, apparently it caches the environment. So like because I didn't use it at the beginning and I had already added the thing, it like, the computer told me to do this show sudo pm2 show server. Server is the name of my server.j. I think it pulled server from server.js. When I do like start server.js, it names it's sort of like a easier ID thing, just so you have like a nickname for it. But I think that's where it pulls it from. Anyway, so show server listed all the things, and it showed that the node environment variable was not set, even though I'd kind of added it already. And so, because I added it and then tried to like load the page, and it still, well, and then I did another netstat here to show that it was actually, there's only one node process and it's running on port 80, which was not what I wanted. So something wasn't working here. So anyway, the computer said, well, it caches the environment. You need to stop sudo pm2 stop server to kill the process. Then sudo node environment equals production pm2 restart, not just start, but restart server and update the environment. It's like, without the computer, that could have been a day-long process trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, how to fix it, whatever. So, thank God for AI, right? So we got it back up. Show the server again, see that the production variable is in place. I think at that point I just... I did one of these too, the netstat thing, to see that now node is down here on 443. So, there you have it, folks. I refreshed the browser, and lo and behold, we're back online. And if I close this thing, which I would do, but it's just it takes like 12 clicks to reopen it. If I close this thing, it'll live on. So, like usually the node process is kind of like the command line disappears and it's like just logging the console log from the node server. And so it's a whole different way to run the server essentially. And what was the tail command? Some way to check the logs. Where was that? Tail. Kill, delete, start, restart, stop. I thought there was, here we go. Tail F. Wait, what? Oh, it's just PM2 logs. PM2 logs server. So it's tailing the last 15 lines for server, which is my, I should probably just, I kind of want it to just log all the lines, but yeah, so there's like these log files now, and I think, so when I was trying to install PM2, it wouldn't install on this VM. It like, I did npm i -g pm2, and it threw an access error and said you don't have permissions. And the computer actually told me that I shouldn't just sudo that it would work, but it would create problems. And one of them I'm seeing here is that this pm2 is installed, in this root folder. I don't really understand what that means, like I don't really understand sudo and root and the file system and what kind of compromises, I have allowed because of this, but I didn't feel like doing the other things, which were like use nvm, the node version manager, to install it, which I think could have worked, but like I don't know how that works, and I don't want another fucking variable in my chaos. So I decided, well, I guess there's always, it's always a trade-off. But it seemed like this was a pretty simple solution as long as it works. I'm just trying to fucking hack this thing together. Even if somebody hacks my entire website, I don't care. I can rebuild it turn off the VM, turn on another VM, whatever. So, all right. So like, yeah, I'm probably logging like these cookie session IDs, so somebody could literally just add that cookie to their. Yep. If you just add this cookie to your cookies on my website, then you can hijack my server session, which pretty much gains you nothing because everything is unauthenticated anyway. So, yeah, I mean, so I jumped through a couple big hoops, got my site launched, got the certificates working. I mean, it works pretty quick. I mean, surprisingly fast for this micro VM. I thought maybe like each request was going to be kind of a crapshoot. Oh, and I got that, got the column thing working, which is kind of cool, and I got the login with my jank button. Thanks to Google's fucking. Oh man, let's just watch that jank around. Bump bump. Every refresh. Bump bump. So that's kind of wonky, but whatever. Now I got a login button, but it's like, what do I do next? There's just so many things to do to make like the website useful, and I mean, pushing through and just kind of tackling these little like, major hurdles one at a time, it's one of the better strategies because it, gives hope. It's like, okay, got that kind of working, got that kind of working, and then as I pull some of these together, that's kind of how all these things have come together, is like it's one little step at a time, and it barely works, but you build on it, you learn from it, you make it a little better. Unfortunately, though, I've also realized that if you don't nail shit down like while you're doing it, you never really want to go back and like dive back into your old code and be like, wait, what the fuck is going on here? I mean, if it's simple enough, then it's not terribly hard. But a lot of the stuff that I did yesterday or the last couple days, like all this stuff, I guess I can probably figure it out by skimming over it, but it's not entirely clear to me what I did and how I would need to edit it in the future. And so in a way, as this thing grows in complexity, it sort of just gets further and further out of touch, or becomes harder to manage. I think this is what one of the fucking. Hello. All right, let me see if I just fucked this entire thing. I thought my comes out, or like when I close my computer. I mean, if thanks. I mean, it works pretty quick to do. I guess I gets first. I guess I gets first. I bumped the cord on the bottom of this mic, which is crazy. If I bump this thing, here, let's split. Can I go split? Oh, I guess that's fine. So I'm wiggling it, and you can see the green bars, but if I pull too far, it's just gonna crap out. Or at least it was. Now it doesn't seem to do it. Now I'm pulling it in and out a bit and wiggling it hard, and it's not coming out at all. Like, how come I bumped it just ever so slightly and the microphone just turned off a second ago? Now it seems to not have that problem. Anyway. I mean, split screen actually is not a bad way to go. It's kind of a cool effect. But I don't know, when you watch a stream, are you more interested in seeing the content or seeing the person talk? And with it on my second monitor over here, I'm kind of looking to the side. I can put my camera over here so that it's more like, whatever, we're just gonna do this. Don't really care about being on the camera. Okay, so yeah, what the fuck do I work on next? Big question mark. Yeah, okay, session data. I mean, that's the whole point of creating sessions, right? Well, so yeah, that's kind of a piece of the puzzle I haven't really thought through, is how do the sessions interact with the user data? I think I realized that because the sessions die off, then it really should only be a session ID, maybe a minimal, like, you know, if there's some sort of convenience values that can be saved in the session just so it's quicker and easier or something, especially if you need access to it in a certain place in code, like that's fine. But I think generally speaking, most of the data should be user data aside from the session. And so, yeah, this whole idea here about having a session folder for each user, because each user could potentially have multiple sessions, especially on multiple devices. In fact, managing that whole thing, like a lot of apps these days, like Spotify, for example, has a little widget for controlling playback on multiple devices. So if you're going from your phone to your computer or whatever, you can control playback from either one, but you can also control which device is actually playing. To clarify, I mean, like, either any device can pause and restart even though it's playing on the other device, I think is how that works. And then you have to manually switch the output from, you know, like if you're listening on your phone with a Bluetooth headset connected to your phone and you want to switch to your computer, then you have to like click a few extra buttons. But anyway, managing multiple devices at once is pretty cool and should be like a default kind of setup, so that like once one app, well, okay, not all app creators should have to reinvent all of the features. This is where the operating system needs to come in, and where like Windows and, you know, I'm not a fan of Mac, mainly because their shit's just so expensive and inaccessible. It's not open source like Android or, you know, Google, a lot of Google stuff. So, well, and Google's not really doing it either. So like, nobody's really taking the bull by the horns and being like, all right, let's make software easier. Let's make it easy to make apps so that people can contribute and make a living. And, you know, the only reason right now why you have thousands and thousands of different apps is because there isn't a platform for creating the apps within the platform. So everyone just reinvents the wheel, creates their own app, doing all this fucking sessions, all the bullshit from scratch, which, as you can see, is quite hard. Now, obviously, I'm not the fastest or best at it or whatever, but what I do think my advantage is that I like to keep things simple. My code is generally pretty clean, except for lately, because I've just been kind of, instead of trying to create like a nice clean API, which I'm always shooting for, is like trying to keep it clean and at least have the potential to be cleaned up. But a lot of times I just start copying and pasting and just plugging shit in, just get it working, and then I can refactor it later, right? Well, I mean, refactoring is generally not that hard, as long as you don't break shit. But it can get confusing when you have little like order of operation, certain conditions that seem like they're simple, but then you realize that there's an edge case that you just skipped over, or when you change something from one way to another, it works just slightly differently or whatever. Like, anyway, refactoring is generally not that hard, although it can be surprisingly tricky. But that's also something that like you could hire run-of-the-mill developers anywhere to just help clean your shit up and test it and make sure it doesn't break. So it's really kind of the architecture that's the most important. The file system, like the server 3 is obviously no bueno, but I'm extending server 2, and I don't think server 2 extends the first server. It extends the base. I don't even remember what the first server was doing. It's actually almost the same. I think I just copy and pasted it because I didn't want to break it. A lot of times when I want to start making drastic changes, I don't want to break what's working because it's a pretty core part of the whole system. But yeah, this one was the building the directories is still a little questionable. Right now I'm doing it on like every file change, which is kind of crazy. I mean, it works, and on the server I guess I will be making I could be making a lot of files. I probably need to change that whole logic too. There's a lot of things that need to be changed. I need to think it through. And unfortunately, once there's these uncertain points where I just have like a question mark in my head about like, well, I don't even necessarily see the whole picture, and so it's going to be hard for me to make these decisions accurately without spending time writing a bunch of notes, thinking it all through. Is essentially the process of loading it all up into your head so that you're familiar with all the different little pieces, and then hopefully some clarity comes of it. And often it doesn't, as it did the other day. I had to just start pasting code in there and hope. It's like I kind of think this is going to work, and then I just start going with it, and it actually kind of did work. But it's not really a confident way to go about things. So yeah, doing user data is definitely one of the things I want to work on. But, creating a user permission system, Discord has got all the roles and permissions and settings, screens, and all that shit. And it generally works all right, although it's super complicated, way more complicated than it should be. And it's not file system based. Well, it's not even like object based. It's like channel based, but it's not so clear how they've got all their shit plugged in. In fact, it's kind of a miracle they have it working in the first place, because it's just very disorganized, or at least just if they're using databases for all their shit, that's just like a massively complex, like lots of data just kind of pulled from different places and cross-referenced, and it's kind of a miracle that it works. I guess there's a lot of shit like that. Like any video game has probably got just as much complexity to it. But I don't like complexity. Try and avoid it like the plague. All right, so yeah, I mean, simply, can we just dump some data into the user folder to practice putting it in there and pulling it back out? Maybe creating different fake users, maybe mocking user behaviors where like I don't know if I want to create a permission-based system for this, but like I was just thinking, creating a button to generate users, but also then creating like a UI to make those users perform actions. I think I've gotten a bit ahead of myself. I think that all that like, social network, like web app stuff is definitely kind of on the horizon in a way now that I have, the sessions set up and the authentication set up. It's like a big step. However, the basic framework is still just such a mess, and there's just, so much shit everywhere. And if I want anyone to help me out with it, I need to like simplify. I can get rid of like Firebase. Yeah, just fucking delete that shit. Delete that shit. Yeah, there's a lot of, okay, so making the framework a little bit more like, well, shareable, cleaning it up, minimizing it so it's basically just a blank slate for a new website. It's definitely a good idea. And I've thought about this a bunch. I mean, one of the kind of goals was keeping it static compatible so that GitHub it could be hosted on GitHub pages. And generally, it still could be. I think, even though I'm doing a lot of stuff with the server that you couldn't do on GitHub pages, like authentication and saving to the file system and all those things. You could, and so that then you have a hybrid approach where you install the server locally, you create the website locally, and then you can use the server to create all kinds of things locally, commit it to the Git repo, push it up to GitHub, and then it all just works in a static mode from then on. So sort of like a static site generator, I would imagine. And that's all still possible too. However, cleaning this all up and making it like user friendly, getting other people to use it, these are all things it's like going in that route would take so much time. And I mean, any of these things is going to take so much time. And maybe that's the best thing to do. It's just I've wondered if I should just forget trying to get help. Like, I either have to pay people on Upwork, and if I'm trying to, I don't have much money. I have a few $100 left in my PayPal account. So if I'm trying to hire people on Upwork and just like really grind it, I there's not much potential there, I don't think. And so, then there's what if I can get it kind of cleaned up, published, and launch it on, just kind of try and spread the word on the internet, like Reddit or Hacker News or whatever. I mean, there's lots of like developer communities, but I could try and reach out to influencers who have channels that could potentially, I don't know how you spread the idea of, like promote your own framework. I think there's so much framework fatigue. There's so many frameworks. The great thing about mine is that it's so simple. Like, where's my home page? Home.page. I mean, the writing HTML with JavaScript functions. This whole div.c thing looks a little scary, but like, when you build up from this, it's just a div. This is the same thing as doing this. And div.c, hi. Whoops, no, this has to be like class name. Hi. It's the same as div class equals class name. Hi. It's pretty simple. And then, you can use functions to be like the containers for the thing, and then, just put them in there and they get captured. And so, I mean, I think it's pretty badass and pretty simple and kind of a great way to, the whole templating system. You don't need a templating engine to process and replace things or whatever. It's all just client-side rendering, and I think it's pretty sweet. So, documenting my framework, I was going to get rid of this one and this one. We don't need me dancing around on the home page, do we? Yeah, I mean, I got this sortable thing here. The API here is a little wonky. So I'm adding sortable lists to the root sortable list. Why don't we... So it's the list class that makes the thing. Can I do this dot append this? Yeah, there we go. So now step one has some stuff in it. It's a little too wonky, but kind of shows how it works. These things are not draggable. I'm actually kind of surprised that that works in between those elements. I'm trying to remember what the sorting algorithm is doing there. It's a little tricky, like, to sometimes, you know, but I mean, you can go inside and outside. I mean, I think it's the right logic. I think getting the spacing or the layout, you know, just kind of tweak it a little bit to give either more or less space, I think could help. But yeah, I mean, being able to drag things in and out is pretty sweet. Reorganize, reorder. Yeah, like this one, okay, so when you drag from here down here, at some point there's like this big jump. Thankfully, I think before, it took me a while to figure out the right layout. Like, you have to have the layout numbers lined up properly so that the bottom one doesn't jump around. And when that happens, like, there's like this jank, and then it can kind of flicker back and forth, I think, because it, you know, it's like the change of the layout causes the reverse action, and it just jumps back and forth and back and forth. But if you have it so that even when it's making these big jumps, that the surrounding, everything below and above stay the same, then you have this nice ability to kind of like put it wherever you want. Anyway, drag and drop stuff. Part of the objective here is to create like either layers like in Figma, like over here, this whole layer panel, like you can drag and drop these things. It's a very similar UI. Like if you want to drag this thing in and out, up and down, wherever you know it should go. You need that drag and drop, sortable. Like you can definitely sort these things. So creating any kind of like web app, you cannot drag these panel things. Oops. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these like little lists that you might want to drag around. And so I think that's, you know, useful, something that I'd like to pursue more, but using this thing and making it work properly could be just really complicated. And my API is just, I don't know why I'm doing this. Sortable.list. So I think the sortable is the manager for the list. I think the list itself gets a sortable instance. And so that whole like structure, I hadn't done that before. It actually kind of makes sense to me. It's almost like a package for a type of list. And it also is an instance on the list. It's like a manager for the list, or a module for the list. And so that works and seems to make sense. But the way that you create a new sortable.list, I don't know, it's not terrible. Like you can create a list with it's not sortable. So new list would be, you know, just a standard list. New sortable.list, actually sort of like an adjective, you know, for the list, seems to make sense. So it's not terrible. Now the make function is, I just kind of put it there. It could be an instance method. So like new list dot, instead of dot append, you would do dot make. Those make functions are more for testing than anything, just to quickly populate it so you don't have to do all this bullshit all the time. Yeah, so a lot of things. Not really sure on this Thursday what I'm gonna get around to. I do think having a landing homepage, you know, like, whew, that's loud. Number 1, vagina fingering technique. Give her shaking orgasms. Thanks, Dr. Melinda Clark. Oh man, what is the world going to? So, let's see. curious, but don't get distracted. All right, so there's like infinite potential for the framework, for the user experiences, for a lot of projects to work on in terms of getting the code to work. But, this whole application framework, this has been, well, as the video suggests, I'm trying to build this web OS. It's not a bad logo. Don't necessarily love it. The red thing is a little big, or at least, I don't know, it just doesn't, maybe the whole thing is too big. I don't know. It's not clear what this red thing is. I mean, I guess it's just a box. It's not terrible, but yeah, I mean, this framework is the web OS. Well, it needs authentication, and now it's one step closer. It needs better UI, UX. We're getting there, but it's a file system based approach. If the file system can be secured properly, then the whole system can be extremely secure and adaptive, and you can make whatever you want with it because it's all based on the file system that's very secure and adaptive in terms of like granting access, revoking access, seeing log files to know who's doing what, when and where and why and whatever. And this is definitely the best way to make web apps, in my opinion. Like, sure, there's some drawbacks to the file system in terms of like all the scalability that people have been working on and big data and all that shit, and it's like whatever. I think I can figure out a way around that. What I'd really like to do at some point is create a better like post layout format, like a single post page. And I've done this before. In fact, it is like the master layout. And the left nav should be kind of optional. Obviously I haven't decided on the header and sidebar thing yet. Padding on here seems like it needs to be a little big. Like this padding is almost bigger than this padding. Probably not, but I don't know, I just feel like there needs to be more padding right here. And this isn't aligned properly. I just kind of shoved this on because I was testing to see how it would look. I do think that having this like these left tabs, especially if when you clicked on one, it would like, look like it was active, having a tab flow into the rest of the tabs. I've designed this a bunch of times. Let's see if I can find one. I'm sure there's one. Yeah, it's sort of like this appearance where whichever thing is activated kind of flows visually into the next part. And so it's just kind of like this. Now, I mean, what that would be in real life, or like, having a page next to a page and having this thing slide out, it doesn't necessarily make perfect sense. But I mean, this looks pretty nice and easy. It is kind of also a table of contents. Now, you don't really need a table of contents for something so small, but if it were really long, but also, then if it's really long, you got to think that it's going to push all this stuff down, and like, do you actually want a massive table of contents, and do they scroll independently, and what happens when, well, then this thing should probably be like full height, which I probably can't do here, without messing with my layout. Anyway, million options here. This does look kind of snazzy with the dark background and the light page and the bent corners. I don't have a footer yet on my site. Some sort of search bar or drop down list, to swap out, which page or whatever. Could be problem with this UX is that if the main nav is hiding in here, then you can't as easily browse. For example, if you forget what these things are and you want to click around to figure out, then it's kind of tricky. I don't know what that even means. forget what things are. I don't know. Nice note there, Michael. Really clear. When I wrote it, I knew exactly what I was talking about. Multi-columns. Yeah, this is kind of cool. I don't know. I'm still just, there's something a little off with icon items. You know, they have to be formatted like just right for them to look right. These don't look bad, but like sometimes they just look perfect. And this, I don't know if it just needs more spacing between these. The white corner doesn't really look right. I feel like that should be darker because it's supposed to be a shadow, not really a highlight. I guess it could be a highlight. It doesn't look terrible, but these are like link blocks or bricks or whatever. Lots of typography. It's like sizes, colors, subheadings, paragraphs. And part of the problem with, you know, getting the right typography is that I can hardly do it in Figma, which is way faster, way easier to like throw shit around, resize it, draw layouts. Now for responsiveness, not so good. It doesn't do responsiveness the right way, which is definitely a problem. I mean, this is kind of an interesting bit here. We have like this giant page with tons of stuff in it. We have page blocks with content on them. This is kind of cool, actually. And these could be icons, or they could be whole like banner images and even bigger. There's all kinds of these image cards you see, UI cards. And I do think, I mean, I kind of was trying to stay away from just this like creating a UI kit where you just spend tons of time creating tons of variations of everything and putting everything inside other things, and like it's just a never-ending battle. And this doesn't have the right consistency. You have like one of these and two of these and two of these, and it's all just all over the place. Obviously it's not, doesn't look right, but there's a lot of potential there. Not sure what I was doing here. The high contrast is very abrasive on the eyes. Probably wouldn't go with something like that. Here's a bunch of nested sections. Okay, so like comparing this one here and this one here, this section here is padded, this one is full width. And so you have to like structure the HTML differently to do that. Well, either the HTML and or the CSS differently, but having subsection with subsections gets a little dicey. So that's like this heading matches this heading. You have then these three. I mean, I don't think I tried to match this all up, but thinking through like what this represents and making it make sense. And I don't know, do you click on these to scroll to it? Doing the table of contents thing, I don't know. I think I would want to pick some kind of content and just start writing it, maybe in Notion, and bring it into Figma, try and draw it up, see what kind of layout works best for it, and then bring it into the web. It's probably the workflow, but that's just a lot of fucking work. Why is this so... There's like 3 different paddings here. This one's biggest. Anyway. Yep, here's some of these like tabby things. So the idea here is that any one of these you could click on, and then it like, before you don't have the fly out or this extra column, and then when you click on one it slides out, and boom, you have more stuff. And then you click on something and boom, you got more stuff. Control T for a title. What does Control T do? Ooh, it's a new tab in Figma. I still don't know whether I like using sub pages here or new files. I mean, I have so many untitled things that I just never... Is there anything in here? There's not a single thing in here. Just delete. Can't delete it. Move to trash. How about this one? What was it? I don't know why it keeps defaulting to the assets tab. Maybe because they want you to discover it or whatever. Not sure what I was doing here. I think I found this thing in one of these icons. That was kind of wild. It's like, I think it's like the bottom of a ribbon or badge or something. Almost looks like a bow tie or I don't know what this is. Move. Lookup targeting. I have no idea what that means. Some sort of SVG thing. I think I can just delete this. Like, why keep it? Move to trash. Move file to trash. What was this one? Didn't I already move this one to trash? Raccoons and relatives. One image for raccoons and relatives. Why was I looking at raccoons? Some of these things look like lemurs. Are they related to the lemurs? I don't know. Okay, move to trash. Problem is I've created so much shit that I can't spend time organizing it. It would take weeks. So fuck me. That's what's up. I mean, whenever I'm designing in Figma and I'm realizing like, well, you know, I kind of want this stuff to be, you know, I'm trying to think, can it be responsive? How does a grid, all right, so here we have 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns. Could be just like a width-based thing. Obviously that looks better. I don't know why I stretched this out so much. But, you know, making these, you know, making the content responsive, it's like, you don't want to make something that you can only look at desktop, on a desktop, or at a specific resolution, and then if you try and load it on a different resolution, it just, you gotta like side scroll or zoom way out or whatever. That's kind of bunky, and most of the time you can get some version of it. And so I think, generally speaking, most content should be put into a layout that's a responsive layout by nature. And so as long as you set it up properly, even if, you know, like, you don't want to have to think about how it's going to be responsive. You want to just choose a responsive layout that's already properly configured so that there's menus and drawers and sidebars and whatever. Oh man, my coffee's cold. Isn't that delicious? All right, so I don't know what kind of content. I've thought about making a web training thing, like you know, explain how the internet works, servers, you know, like a basic intro to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And frankly, I think it could be super simple and take a few minutes. In fact, if you had especially if you have multi-columns and you can do like you know, some text on one side and then like a little code editor on the other side, or even like a code editor with like a rendering area so that you can actually just type shit out. I mean, that's kind of the ideal, is that, you know, sort of like one of these code sandboxes, and you can test shit and see what it does, like all in real time. Learn how to use the developer tools. becoming a web developer is deceptively hard. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. It is takes just an enormous amount of like weeding through the bullshit and trying to figure out what's the right tech to learn, and you know, what do you need to do to get a good job and all that bullshit. Learning how to design is a pretty decent skill to try and pick up. Yeah, I mean, getting the right font sizes. This is pretty small, actually. Kind of like it, though. How big is this? It's got to be... Holy fork, that's 10 pixels. That's way too small. I mean, I guess for little notes, but... A lot of times with these, I just get it, like, roughly set up, and I don't spend so much time farting around with, like, exact anything. These must have big line heights. That must be what's going on here. Yeah, let's set these back to auto. I think tightening those up looks a little bit better. But you know, like creating blocks where you can just kind of move stuff around. I've always meant to do it, and I think I could, but like, I don't know. These are these elusive things where it's on my list of things to someday overcome, but I've tried so many times to like figure it out, be like come up with an example or a drag and drop system of like a few basic blocks where I can then make a bunch of stuff with it, and I know that the solution I'm looking for is out there. Like it's not completely, well, it's not impossible, and it's not like the goal that I'm setting out to achieve in a lot of these cases is too difficult. It's more that the bullshit of life just, you know, there's certain ideas that will enter my mind, and there's certain ideas that just literally, you know, it's almost as if my brain cells are forbidden from thinking that way or something. And so no matter how hard I try to focus my energy to figure out some of these seemingly simple challenges, they just prove to be way harder than they should. Like, can I drag this over here? No, I can't. If I hold control, okay, now I can. But I can only go here and here. I can't go between them. Now maybe if I come in here, shift enter to select the parent, add some space here, now I should be able to drag this in with control in between. Boom. Now this is a section 3. It should probably be remain over there. Oh, that's nice. It actually stretched it back out over here. Sometimes the layout breaks when you move things around. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the idea. What happens if we put this, if we put all these into here? Boom. It gets way like spaced out way more because of the spacing on this one. You could then go like this, shift A, tighten it up, even give like a different background color. Still is spaced too much because of the way that it's blocked out, but so goes life. But yeah, I mean, so drag and drop design systems are ideal in a lot of ways, just because, you know, you see what you got and you can drag it and put it exactly where you want, and then it's just very tangible and quick and easy. Now the problem is that you usually need something very specific, and you usually don't have that thing. Like, you either need to pre-make all the things you might ever need, and there's like infinite of them, and you're never going to be able to do that, or you need to be able to customize each one as you use it or as you need it or whatever. So when you drag shit around and it breaks or it doesn't look right, you gotta adjust it until it looks right. And so I think some of that's necessary, but at the same time, if you create, well, like for example, if you create, you know, a small handful of blocks that then, you know, let's say you started with something that was relatively empty, and then you just have like some basic blocks and you drag them in, boom. Let's get one of these, boom. Like that's the idea, like it should be quick and easy. Drag and drop, bang, bang, boom. Creating these horizontal column-based like pages, you know, I've set this up a couple times recently. And it's not a bad idea, it's just when you have this variable height content, you know, if you have like a big one and a short one, let's just say you have another big one in between, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Now doing it all stacked up, you know, vertically, a lot of times websites are oriented to just be long, scrolly websites. I don't know. I'm so lost right now. Like my brain hurts. Not sure what to work on. Might need to just take a break. Turn off the stream. Turn off my life. Take a nap or something. Maybe I should just give up on everything. Maybe I'm not doing the right things because God's a fucking asshole. There's no way this was, I don't know, like, is this the kind of typical path for somebody who sets off like me in the direction that I did? Typical outcome. And so the conclusion is that life is just designed to be a trap. It's just meant to fuck you up. I don't know. I got out of my despair a few days ago and pushed through and got some shit done. But right now, I don't know if it was this McDonald's coffee, the lack of the other coffee, or just my lack of general, you know, intelligence or capability or whatever that prevents me from figuring out what kind of fucking typography I want on my website. It's absolutely dog shit. I mean, most homepages are, you know, like, pull up Bob's website for a second. Most websites are these, like, these big sections. Full width, colorful, and so I could try and do something like that for my homepage. But on such a giant monitor, it's a lot harder, for one. And I could, you know, I could still do it. I could just max out the width so that it doesn't get insanely big. And then, I don't know, for the full width images, it gets a little harder. But I guess you just stretch them and they get a little blurry or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know, maybe I could work on this 2-column thing. I do kind of like this idea of making them giant. It means that whatever content is in there, how big is this? This is pretty big. Actually not big enough for my monitor. Let's, I guess I can go with this. All right, let's do 3440 by 1440, I think, is my print screen. Control paste. Yeah, 1440. It misses a pixel when I screenshot it, but I think that's the resolution of my monitor. We'll Snag that background. I guess we'll bring the shadowy page thing here. And yeah, I mean, how big? 1200. Make 2 of these. Shift A. What kind of layout? I think for this, I actually want the height to hug. So we would need auto layout, height, hug. Okay. So then, I guess maybe I want to go to, yeah, this one's not bad. It's a little small, very small. Let's just scale it up. Whoops, okay. I think resizing these so that they're kind of these like typical values. I think that's too big. I think that should be more like this. Should probably be a little darker just because I know I'm zoomed way out. Oh, so I guess that was fine. I could probably go back. Does this need to be bigger to kind of overpower this a little bit more? It feels too big. Alright, I guess they're both 30. Oh, this is 32. I don't know why this still feels so big. Guess it could come down a little bit. 24 and 20. I don't know, it's not perfect, and then I'd have to do it for all these. Let's just duplicate this. Who cares what this is called? Alright, so now we got some content. I think I'm just going to delete these guys. Maybe I can copy this and paste it on here, and then delete these guys. There's still this thing here. Is the column. What is this doing? What do I want it to do? Well, that's a big question. For these, I think filling is natural. Whoa, both of them. Fill. Now, height-wise, I think this should be hug. Is this auto? Yeah, is this auto? Yeah, so is our padding is working. We probably want this to be more of like a fixed width or max width or something. Add max width. Yeah, I mean, fuck doing the responsiveness in Figma. It's a waste of time. It's not going to work right anyway. But, you know, the idea here is that, yeah, that shouldn't happen. We can top align these guys. I think, I don't know if we want some space in between because they're kind of, the overlap's a little iffy. That's a really hard shadow. Can we, is there 2 shadows on each of these? Jeez. Yeah, with the 2-column layout, should these sections be clickable where they kind of load over here? Should this be kind of smaller? Even like smaller. Whoa, bro. Why is that? Because I didn't turn on the scale like I thought I did. So even, like, this has to get really small for it to be, like, obviously smaller. Like, it's obviously smaller, but those page titles are still kind of conflicting. Like, I almost think this thing needs to be, like, not so bold. But then it's not really looking how I want. Like, typography's hard. It's really fucking hard to get it to all just the hierarchy. Get everything kind of in its place where everything kind of relates to each other in a way that makes sense. I mean, maybe part of the problem is that we don't want this whole, like, title and whatever. Like, these should be just small sections, but they are a little too small. This is the thing, is that messed around with this shit so much in the past, and I don't really even want to write blog like content, like writing sections of content where that's like, are people gonna read that shit? Like, I don't think so. I think just having like link blocks where when you click it, it goes to another area where there's like more images or video or more link blocks. Like, just forget text. Like, nobody wants to read shit anymore. I sure don't. Now, sometimes you might need to, obviously, but like, oh, I just feel so fucking useless right now. I don't feel like this is going anywhere. But I haven't really defined an objective for myself, and I'm kind of drifting because I could work on a lot of different things, and I'm kind of like looking for something that's going to be worth the while, something that I can interest myself enough to like okay, here's a problem. I think I could envision a solution, and I think I could get that done today. But man, my brain is barely working. I mean, just cleaning up the website to be like less crappy, like the homepage, which sucks because it's just, I mean, I could get rid of all this crap. But like, what do I want on my homepage? Like, this WebOS video, it doesn't really explain it very well. In fact, it's a bad video. Like, I should probably just take it down off the website. It was like a quick, shitty attempt at explaining what I want. I mean, right now, I'm in this spot where all I can do is, like, I can turn on my stream and I can talk some bullshit. I can try and explain what I'm doing, but, like, I clearly don't really know what to do next. And, trying to explain that to other people and be like, I'm just not there yet. I'm just not at the point where, at some point, I'm not going to need any help, and then I'm going to tell everyone to go fuck themselves and be like, make your own goddamn web framework, and I don't need to help anyone learn how to use it because I'm going to use it to make web apps, and then it's going to be game over. But right now I'm kind of just floundering and can't figure out what to do, and it sucks. So I mean, one big question is what width should the homepage be? Also, do I want the header and sidebar? Well, so I think on mobile, you definitely don't have the sidebar. I think maybe these two things need to be kind of like disconnected from each other, where the header can exist on the home page, or sorry, on mobile. I haven't made the site responsive at all. I haven't made zero effort at it yet. But eventually, like, it should be. I have some responsive fonts there where it kind of scales up and down in this region, which is nice because it helps it be more legible on big screens, but, and then smaller on mobile. Well, so getting this to break down to one column, I think is, useful. And when it comes to 2-column content, I did get that little kind of clicky nav thing set up so that you could click through and click back. And that can help, definitely. In fact, that probably is the mechanism that I've been looking for to be super simple, automatically responsive, also be very adaptable to desktop. Like, in fact, I could use some simple JavaScript to compute how many columns we wanted up. So I'm talking back about this thing. And so rather than just, only have 2 columns at a time, if you're on desktop and you could fit a third column, like bam, now you could have 3 whole columns set up. And so while on mobile, it might be a little bit more limited, that you might be able to, well, like for a 3-column UI, you could drag stuff from one, between all 3 of them, which you couldn't really do on mobile. So I don't know how you would, you might have to have like well, for drag and drop on mobile, you could just swipe, drag, and then when you get to the one edge of the screen or the other, it just kind of flips over to the next level. I'd have to think that through. But yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking like instead of only having, part of my thought was, if you just limit it to 2 columns at a time, then you don't have to worry about how much space you have. Well, and this thing is responsive. It collapses that column at a certain breakpoint, which is nice. Boom. Collapses it to the active page, which is usually going to be that right page. Boom. So, yeah, it kind of simplifies the that hash pager. Which, by the way, for this, oh fuck, I don't have the hash routes going on, and I probably should. Yep. This would definitely need routing. Well, because you refresh the page and then bam, it resets. And you'd have to dig back through, and so you couldn't like. Well, also if you're when you're developing and it does live reload, it would fuck it up, and lots of reasons. The routing is important for these kind of fundamental navigation type things. Hash pager. So yeah, this one is a kind of multi-column setup where it has routes so that when you refresh, it keeps that page active, and that's good. But you have to side scroll it because I was lazy with I didn't finish the whole, trying to figure out how to collapse the first pages so that you only have one page, well, so that you can always see what you want to see. It's basically the gist of it. But yeah, I think I'm gonna turn this off and take a nap because I am just so fucking out of it right now. I can't think about anything. I can't think about what I want to do. I can't seem to anyway. I don't know, I think my wife said she was coming home around lunchtime, so I might turn this thing off in a few minutes anyway. Why don't I spend the last few minutes while I got the stream running just trying to make sense of any of this shit. So like, well, let's think about the home page. Do I want more full width shit? Let's think about the nav. Header is fine. Kind of feel like this logo is a little big. Maybe should shrink down just a touch so it's not like crammed in there. I don't know. I do like how it's got why it does this every once in a while, and I have no idea why. I think it's a bug. I don't think it's my code. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. It's got to be my code, but like it turns the fucking thing off when I didn't hit the hotkey, and there's just really no reason it should do that. Like I have no fucking idea why it would do that. It does it randomly sometimes. Anyway, the test, seeing the test thing up here, the path, the breadcrumbs, so that you can use that as navigation it's really handy. Sometimes it's like more central to the content. Like I could put a smaller breadcrumbs here so that if that wasn't there, that you could still jump around similarly. But, you know, I've thought about on mobile how um, you know, having a sticky header. See, it just got rid of my header again. My controls. There's got to be some reason why it's doing that. Well, here's a little thing I could maybe try and solve. It's in my app, I believe. It's the header footer. I don't have a footer. I don't think I call that function. It's this one. It's this bit here. So I toggle both of the header and this side nav thing, and I also flip the state of the local storage. I also this thing. All right, so console.log nav state true. And then here, I mean, this is obvious. Console.log toggle nav. I think that's really it. Wait, oh, here, if nav state equals false. Maybe this is part of the problem. And why do I have this here? I don't actually know. I think this is sort of like on the initial load. And it has to be down here because we need this to render first. This one, this is more just like, yeah, if there is no nav state. Pretty sure that only happens. I'm on local. There's my toggle nav log. This would be the okay. Why did that happen? Whoops, I didn't end the group. This is so dumb. It's always true. now I think it should work. Let's see. I don't know. Let's just this page. It's off. Now it's on. Now I think it was like when I went here, it would turn off. I think it's now gonna work properly. Okay. That's because I wasn't actually changing the variable, and I was only saving the new state, but I didn't. If I had used the hotkey to toggle it, then the save state essentially would differ from the current state. Oh, it shouldn't have actually. That's the thing, is it should have saved it properly. Shouldn't have even mattered that the value gets flipped, right? Oh no, it does, because once you flip it and then flip it back, then like the toggle. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, if I put a shadow on the sidebar there, that's not a bad. Well, so do I want a header? I don't fucking know, man. I don't know. Sticky header, probably not. I know a lot of sites do that, especially on desktop. It's just, well, on mobile it's not as bad because you have plenty of vertical space. Now, if you have like a URL address bar and a header, then maybe you have less vertical space. All of a sudden, now you're eating up a quarter of your screen with UI. It could be non-sticky so that it scrolls away as you scroll down. I mean, I was thinking about doing like sort of like an admin type, like header and sidebar or whatever, like kind of like WordPress's back end where you have, you know, extra menus and extra controls when you're authenticated or in dev mode or whatever, kind of like, you know, the secret hotkey that activates these things that aren't supposed to be there on the main site. So essentially, like, you know, you could turn it off, and and then you could have another header and or sidebar for like the actual front end. And then if you're, you know, authenticated, you could turn on like probably like a dark header and sidebar for just, you know, managing the site. So I don't think that's a bad idea, but like, is the header and sidebar kind of permanent? Or are they probably wouldn't be toggleable, even though it's kind of fun to do that? I don't think that's necessarily something you need for your front end for other users, just because, I don't know, maybe it is good, like, so users can clear the UI and they can work in full screen mode essentially. I mean, you can actually like go full screen, get rid of this dev tools, and bam, there's a pretty full screen experience right there. So, well, boom, even more full screen experience. If you wanted, you know, that full space to lay your shit out, or if you were designing some sort of like Figma type shit. It's not a bad idea, but clearly the hotkey couldn't be the same as the other one. Now you need two hotkeys for activating both your little panel systems. That gets kind of tricky. Right now I'm using Control \. I could use like Control Shift \/ for like the extra layer. But I mean that's a lot of extra fucking things, and I don't know if that's necessary. I'm gonna go mix up a little pre-workout caffeine mix because my brain is so dead right now I can't think. Maybe that'll help. Maybe it'll kill me. One can only hope. All right. Well, because there's so many options, it kind of splinters the kind of thought space. It's like there's just too many permutations to think about. I mean, I don't like the idea of a one column page. It's just like kind of a waste of space. I don't know, is the header with the breadcrumbs, like, is this a good idea? I mean, I don't actually use it that much. I usually use the sidebar to find things. In fact, I like never, I mean, the only thing I really do is to like refresh a page or like reset the hash router on a page to be like, if I'm on the hash pager and I go deep and I want to reset it, the best thing to do is just click this thing to go back to like the first page. I mean, I could just click that one just as easily. I guess that's the same thing. But if this were flipped out and I go back here, oh, it does reset it. Okay. Oh, and it's broken. Fuck, I forgot. Hit like, I need to flip a switch or something. Or actually, I think maybe I just need it to deactivate. Or maybe it does deactivate. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I forget why why it's not working. As this energy drink flows into my blood, I'm getting the sense that it's not going to help much, that I'm just going to get like lightheaded and it's not going to carry me through. Maybe I need some more cannabis edibles. Amp myself up. Maybe I just need to go for a walk or something. I don't know. I'm gonna turn on some stream beats just because it's the only thing I'm allowed to play, and why not? Oh man. think. Kind of was just thinking about like trying to clean it up and make it more. I have this repo, this framework site, which is basically just the framework repo as its own, and then a home page. And I mean, I think it worked. It doesn't have like a lot of the stuff, but I guess that's good in a way. It's just kind of the simplest version. Do I want to? I probably would want to just include the server in that repo so that you don't have to have a third repo. Like, also, I think my framework in the Lu42 repo is not a submodule. I think it's just a repo within a repo with no configuration of it, and I think it works mostly fine. You do have to manage them both separately with commits and versions and whatever. But with this one, and maybe, I don't know if this is why it's blue. If submodule, okay, so VS Code knows it's a submodule. I don't even know what that means. Like, I'm not familiar enough with Git and submodules to know exactly how it works, but essentially it's a sub repo that's like installed or like configured at least a bit, and then you can use Git submodule like commands to help manage it or multiple submodules. It's kind of a step towards like not needing an npm. Like, instead of having node modules, you have like Git submodules, and then you can install and manage packages and versions via Git rather than having to use npm. I think it's a long way from that at this point. Or, I mean, it could be used that way. It's just, it's not like a Git isn't like a package manager so much as, even though it could be and probably should be. But because I had to do it as a submodule to get what's his face, to get the GitHub pages to render properly. I think it worked. I think I finally got it to properly work. And so one of the good things there is that because it's so simple and clean, that anyone could use this to create their own site, and then and even like I could create like an example site where it just create a bunch of pages kind of like these with examples of things that you can make with it, just to give other people like, you know, stepping stone to getting started with it and using it. But yeah, I mean, the server should definitely be included, which means, you know, the fact that you have to name the web root docs is kind of silly, but whatever. Maybe I should kind of work towards the GitHub pages bit. Not that you have to use GitHub pages, and, you know, kind of sidesteps a lot of the extra functionality. In fact, all the extra servers, so the sockets, the directory thing. Well, the directory thing could exist and probably should exist. I don't know. The directory is part of the extensions. This hasn't been updated in a while, but the directory is what allows you to just have an automatic navigation that shows all the pages that, you know, are available to be clicked on. So that's kind of good. I'm now realizing why my start menu doesn't appear, and it's because I'm in full screen mode. My start menu, I think I turned off the auto hide because it just got annoying. Now it's always there, which I'm okay with. I mean, it takes up a lot of space. I do like this full screen mode. It's just like, gets rid of so much bullshit. Gives you so much more vertical space. If you were trying to actually do something, like getting rid of all that extra stuff is pretty cool. Well, so um, what was I just thinking about? Oh, yeah, I was looking at this shit. Ah, yes. I was thinking about all the features here, like. So this is server 2, and I'm overriding this method. I really should clean that all up. Like, I was doing a dynamic bootloader, kind of, instead of the fallback index.html, which I do now. And I don't know, like, does this thing load from the file system every single time? It might, actually. That'd be worth, looking into. It doesn't seem to take much time, but getting it to cache the files so that it doesn't have to load this. Maybe send file in the background does some caching. Who knows? It might actually read file sync every time. On every request, it has to, like, look at the file and see if it's changed or whatever, which would be an extra slow step. Yeah, so this is like a fallback. First it tries to serve it normally, but if it fails to find the path or file, if it's has an extension, then it 404s. If not, it sends. I don't know. Yeah, you definitely don't need any. This is only for production. Well, I guess you still need this for, like, developing locally. Yeah, so cleaning it up and trying to make it more, like, shareable could be a good way to go. I could let other people use the framework to make their own stuff. But, I mean, again, it's like I could spend all day, like, am I going to try and document the framework classes? Like, the core itself it's so simple, it's, like, not even worth doing. I mean, it's sort of worth, like, explaining what you can do, just showing some basic views so that, you can get the idea of how it works. But, yeah, I mean, I do think it would be worthwhile, and it is kind of been on my list. As I've gone back and forth, like, oh, I'll just fuck other people, do it myself. Don't need their help. I'll figure it out, and it's gonna take longer to try and teach other people what's going on here. Might as well just keep going and try and make the features, make the apps, make the money. Then I can hire people and make them learn it. But then I think, okay, well, this is going way too slow. I'm never gonna finish this by myself. I need help. I might as well just spend some time publishing it in a way that other people might jump on board and use it. Well, I do think I need better layouts. The layout system on the web is just such trash. It's like, it's so hard to make multi-column layouts. I mean, it's not that hard to make 2 even columns, but, like, well, for something like a landing page, what's going on with the landing page? Am I getting an error, or did I just not Can we stop logging that the cookie shit worked? I think this is coming from the server. The server sends a RPC log that says that the cookie shit worked, right? Let me see, it's in server 3. Server 3. Where is it? Could have sworn it was in here somewhere. Oh, it's in the socket server. Where we do all this. Yep, there we go. RPC log, cookie shit worked. RPC stuff is cool too. It's like you can call methods on the client via the socket from the server, or on the server via the socket from the client. Like right now, you can write files to my server by calling the right method. Any path you want. You could climb out of the public folder into, like, you know, some root folder and put a virus on my VM if you wanted to. I think. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. Well, anyway, so let's look at this landing page and just kind of fuck around with it for a second. Land page. Ooh, nothing at all. So how about, I think, like, whoops, test. Just need to get this little import line, maybe some padding, maybe some styles in an H1. Let's go. Boom. And then how about, let's see, columns. Oops. Div.c left. I already have, no, apparently no column CSS. See, this is what I need to work more on, is like a CSS, more on. I need to work more on the CSS framework so that you can do things quicker. Have like little code snippets you can copy and paste, get some shit whipped together. So, let's say you had a video. Why didn't that work? There we go. Let's look at that home page, grab that little embed iframe. Looks like I'm just dumping raw HTML in there. Could be dangerous, but go, I don't know, should the video be on the left or the right? Let's minimize this, or just make it less big so that then I can. They're both grow 1, but because the video is just naturally bigger, it tends to take more space, I guess. Width 100%, height 500. Interesting. I haven't done much with like iframe, responsive iframes. But let's get rid of the card on the left side so it's a little bit more flush. Boom. How would I put a form here? Like, I haven't actually built forms, like, ever. I have, but not with my own framework. I mean, I think it would just be some, like, let's just do this. It's not going to be a real form, but I mean, I could like style those all out and make a little form. I mean, this is kind of one of the big things that I've been looking, you know, I've been thinking about using Google Forms for a long time. Making forms like inputs. There's so many examples of, you know, like UI controls, whether it's buttons and drop downs and menus, tabs, so many UI things that you can do that, like, I don't know. Well, the question, part of the question here is like, what does this do on mobile? You would want it to stack, obviously. God, design has become such like a, oh, that's cool. This is like an actual, probably an iframe. I mean, Webflow is pretty decent. It's just, I don't like using it. I mean, it seems to, you seem to be able to create some pretty decent stuff. I had a lot of problems trying to figure out what the heck it was doing. It's kind of cool. It's like a sticky column there. The left column is taller than the right column, but it slides down here and then sticks to the bottom. I mean, it's a really nicely designed website, lots of like animations, very clean. Are you ready to transform your life? I mean, the whole like how everything fades in, oh, it doesn't now once it's already faded in. Like every single element fades in, fades in, fades in, fades in. I mean, it's kind of cool, but like it's a little unnecessary. But the fact that everything kind of moves, Oh, it's a nice touch, actually. Well, let's see. Preview in browser. Boom, there we go. So on a giant monitor, it seems like they just keep it clipped to, yet the image background there is full width. It's a little like cramped in there, like they could let it breathe a little bit more. Just like all the spacing in between here and here. And then you gotta wait like a ton of space here. That's kind of cool. I would imagine it wraps. There's no way this just keeps going. I've tried. Yeah, I think it's just wrapping. It's kind of crazy though. What happens if you zoom out? Huh? Wait, what? What happens? How do they do it? It's gotta like wrap or something, right? Don't they move them around? Maybe they just reset the whole thing at some point? Or maybe they don't do anything? There's no way. There it goes. So they just don't expect you to see that. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Why it's jumping so much. I think maybe it just has to do with the edge being at the side there. Anyway, Control 0 to go back to 100% zoom. Laura Mitchell looks a lot like a man. I think this is just a template, not a not a designed and developed by Unity Infoway. Flash of unstyled content. I'd imagine this is a Webflow site. Is this supposed to be like a bullet point? What is this thing? It's in front of all these. I don't really like the aesthetic. I know a lot of sites are doing it. It's kind of like a cheesy look or something. Trying to be trendy. I mean, if this is all Webflow, it's pretty impressive. I mean, it's kind of weird it doesn't go to the end, but you know, like on a giant monitor, having some of these like full width things definitely kind of I'm sure it's a similar thing where it just I can't zoom out anymore. Maybe they just duplicated it like a bunch of times. It's a lot of times though. But you know, like the full width things that kind of, you know, help fill in left to right. You know, on a giant monitor like this, it just makes it feel like it's laid out properly. I mean, one of the problems with trying to fill more space, like you can do generally, you know, just by scaling up a little bit, but then the problem is that it kind of, you don't have enough vertical room as you scale this all up. You either need to like do like 3-column type thing, or which, you know, you could do this little text thing as 1 column, the image in the middle, and then like these 4 things stacked up on the other side of the image. It's a little bit bigger in the middle, and a 3-column ultra wide could work. Spacing it out a little bit more could be useful. I mean, nobody reads this, do they? Maybe some people do, but the link blocks, I think these are great. Looks like they're not fully clickable, even though there's a hover effect, which is a little like, I mean, I'm sure most people will be able to figure out that you gotta click the arrow, but I would think that if there's a hover effect, you just want the whole thing to have a pointer cursor, and then the whole thing is clickable. It shouldn't be that hard to do, right? This bold text and this text probably shouldn't be the same. I would think this should be normal and this should be bold. It's kind of a cool grid where you have like the small and big columns, especially for these big blocks of text. Definitely makes it fit better. Otherwise, this would be, you know, if these two were the same width, then this block of text would be so much longer. Whoa, that was kind of crazy. With our latest insights. Odoo. Is that the one I was looking at the other day? Yeah, it is. Huh. I mean, think about this. Look at all these view all apps always, right? Look at all these apps. Now you might think like, oh, well, how could one platform do all of these, you know, that well? Wouldn't they do all of them more poorly? But if they're integrated properly, then that advantage is huge. By the way, these little like link blocks with the inset tile, I feel like Wiki.js had yeah, these guys I always thought were really sharp looking. Little icon. Some of them are blocky, you know, have like a background to the icon. And most of them are just kind of transparent. This is a pretty wide, you know, like got a white background around the table of contents here, or it's not really a table of contents so much as a navigation. I guess it is sort of a table of contents. Kind of want to see how. Ooh, look at that. So they're not actually fluid width. They just stay fixed and jump to different sizes. That does cause wrapping of the names. The line spacing here could be fixed a little bit. The construction icon looks like it's running into the thing. Maybe they just accepted that as okay. It's not bad. The coloring is pretty cool. Like they got, you know, the orange thing, you know, pink and orange. And this Wiki.js, you know, I was watching it for a while. They started as having a NodeDB, so it was a NodeDB solution, like just files in JSON, I would imagine. And then they're like, no, I guess they made the decision to go to compatible with any of the following databases. It's like, okay, that's kind of crazy. This thing must be very well funded in order to have that going on. I don't mind like the big title bar. It seems like kind of a waste of space. It's like almost like a banner image, but it's got just an animated texture. kind of like, why? Like, you're kind of just nuking this entire top area where, I don't know. It's not terrible. I mean, it's very prominent and very like. But then this is all like quite crammed in here. Like, there's just not a lot of room to breathe. You got all this space we're wasting, and then you just cram everything in right here. But generally, the icons are pretty sharp. You know, now it has a title and a subtitle, and most of them are just the same, which is a little weird. It's sort of like product name and company name, but for a lot of them it's the same thing. So I always thought that was a little like, I mean, it looks kind of cool. It makes these little blocks, you know, they have more potential. Excel-like. Oh, this is under construction. Users can use the editor they are most comfortable and proficient with. It's like I'm not actually that familiar with all this thing is trying to do. The most powerful and extensible open source wiki software. Make documentation a joy to write. The problem with it is like, it's sort of like a new WordPress. Sort of what it even looks like, right? And how it all works and how it all comes together is like very opinionated, and you got to learn how it all works, and there's likely just a huge learning curve trying to get into it. And then looks like it's got a copyleft license, which I think is fine as long as you don't, what's the thing, you can't like sell, you can't copy their software and then sell it. Now what you can do is like create these sites for other people and sell them, which could be, you know, a decent business opportunity. I do remember this section. It's got this white bar that goes all the way across, which is a little interesting, but it's like a tab thingy. So does this run on like Node or like what? I'm pretty sure you can self-host it. Search, cloud search, storage. Back up your content to get. Where is open source? What does wiki Yeah, I mean, I found so many of these things that like tempt me to dig into it and figure it out, and that's just such a huge endeavor. This is kind of a cool section. I don't like this hard line at the bottom. It's kind of a weird, but if this were a dark footer, that'd probably look better, where it goes from white to the colored to the dark. And I remember I have this design in one of my things. Probably copied it from somewhere. Reekworks, I think is the company. Open source applications for teams. Reekworks.io. Loki.js. Yeah, I remember I was here the other day and was like, what the fuck are these Loki.js? Session store. Yeah, I mean, in a way, this could be like expedite everything I'm trying to do and be, you know, a good step. But the problem is, I mean, it looks nice, and I could just kind of like do similar designs. How does this? Does this just chop off the logos? No, it wraps them. Okay. I'm guessing that's just like a flex wrap. Are these all the same width? Max width 120. 120, 120, 200. Huh. They put a max width on them and then they override it for some of them. That's kind of crazy. But most of them are 120. There's a 180 in there. So, oh, 50. Yeah, and then the whole thing is flex wrap, yeah. I mean, like, simple layout where it just, you know, works. I think it's cool, especially when it's like super adaptive like that. Okay, so now, oh, I thought that Cloudflare one is just kind of weird how it's laid out. I thought that was like two logo. I thought that was a separate logo sitting on top of that one, but that actually, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It just works. It just works all the way down. That's kind of cool. It's hard to tell which jumps are like fluid based. I think most of it's fluid. I always prefer, you know, as a developer, I always prefer fluid based, you know, like rather than hard coding. Like, I wonder how they hard code this one, if it's like a min width in a wrap. Are they using that tailwind? I don't think so, actually. There are, you know, like some utility classes, but I don't think it's as crazy as like a tailwind. What was the... Just trying to... Okay, so it does wrap. They're using flex wrap to break here, but then the question is flex base is 50, but is there there's a max width of 50%? Is that what's doing it? I think that's what's doing it. Is it the max width makes it automatically like stack up, and then when you get up here, when it breaks, wait, no, when it breaks here, it removes that max width. Yeah, it goes from 50% to 100%. Interesting. I guess that's not a bad way to go. There's a number of ways you can get the things to wrap. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, the flex basis property, there's so many ways to declare width these days. It's just really confusing how, you know, what order they all work in. I kind of don't even mind these giant sections, especially if you have something to fill it in. You don't have to fill the whole thing in all the time, but just like a little bit of, like, you know, where there's one of those tickers that scrolls. Now this guy must be like a super trans zero. Social gear is now reborn as trans zero. What the fuck? This is a bad website. The fuck is this? There's so many tech companies, it makes me sick. Because most of them suck. Anyway, yeah, like all these integrations and shit. It reminds me of like the Open Web UI or the what was this? Comfy UIs, the other one I was using for AI shit. These icons are pretty badass. I don't like the lack of margins though. I really like websites that use strong margins where everything is just kind of like the boundaries are well defined. way over here. Carbon ads. Interesting. Yeah, so I mean it's not a bad layout. It is centered. The nav is centered. The text is centered. Everything's centered. It means you don't have to worry so much about the width of everything, and also means it probably just kind of responds pretty well. Let's see how this goes. So that header does turn white, which is pretty typical. The nav kind of adapts a little bit right there, and then at some point the whole thing, that's kind of cool how it, when it reappears it animates down. Nice little touch. Well, so, whoa, that image gets so small. It's kind of cool. It looks like they're using some sort of fluid padding there. Kind of works well. This section looks pretty decent. Chops it off there. Looks like that just hits its absolute minimum. What is the minimum like phone width these days? I think it's one of these old iPhones, 375s. I don't think you usually get below 375. 390 is still pretty small. 360, that's real small. 344, wow. I don't know why. Like they're like really pushing the low end on pixels. Like that means you need your website to respond at like 344 is crazy. I think that emulator makes the layout bug out, so I think going like this to 344 is probably a better representation. But it's not quite cutting that off where it kind of hits its absolute minimum around here at like 300, 275 or 300. But anyway, that's pretty small. You could put the icons on top, probably keep them small and left aligned so it just flows a little bit better. I wasn't really a fan of that, you know, because it kills space, but it does kind of sometimes creating dead space just helps it all breathe. Now that's kind of weird. I don't know why this is so stretched out. There's some, ooh, that ad goes. I don't know if that's supposed to do that. If it's like, looks like there's some JavaScript moving that thing around. Like it hides and reappears. It's kind of weird. Oh man, so images are cool, especially if they're clickable or interactive. Like if they're meaningful. This is less meaningful. I mean, having a demo right on a homepage is probably one of the cooler things you can do. It's like, give it a try. In fact, for my thing, I could have a little, like, some little examples that show how to use it. I haven't really thought it all through, and I feel like it's so simple that it needs, like, a really simple demo that's just so intuitive, but then every time I try and do it, it gets clogged up with bullshit. Like, wasn't it on the homepage where I was doing those little examples of divs? I think I deleted them again. Earlier I was typing out some example like syntax with my little functions, and yeah, Well, so a lot of these layouts need responsiveness. They need to like stack up. I'm trying to remember what my method was for making them break. I want to say I put like a wasn't it? I did have this little layout page. Yeah, getting them to be responsive though. So like these three, these must have a min width on this card, which means the wrapping is based on hitting that min width right there, and then they're allowed to grow again. It's kind of an interesting thing. They also have a max width, so it doesn't go all the way full. But I mean, it's kind of a cool thing to go with 3, and then even if you let this thing grow, like then you go 2 plus 1, rather than just, you know, or you could go from 3 to just a full stack of full width ones at some point. But, you know, it gets kind of tricky, like what kind of content you have in there. Does it look right at this resolution, and would it look right at full resolution? Whenever you break from 3 things to 1, you know, to 3 full width things, then that would drastically change the aspect ratio. Yeah, getting the flex to wrap, I don't know if I messed around with that much. I've been messing around with flex a bit lately, doing lots of different things. Here's kind of a similar thing with only more items inside of it. We go from 3 columns down to 2 and 1, down to a full stack. And then, but yeah, these min widths kind of mess shit up at lower sizes. So you kind of either have to do a media query to, or container query to remove the min width, which kind of means then the whole system might just, you might need to rethink the whole system. I'm not actually sure what the best way to do multi-columns are. I mean, the wiki.js way, where it used a, let's see what other kinds of columns they got. Flex, they're using flex a lot. Layout, what is their layout? What the fuck? WebKit docs? They're using layout for flex, but why not just call it flex? Wait, what? Their flex class doesn't even do display flex? That's weird. My flex class is display flex. It's like flex plus another one. It's sort of like a combo class, it looks like. Also, oh, it's 1-1 auto. Max width 100. That's what flex does. Also, what is child flex? Oh, it means you want all of the children to be flex. Interesting. Container grid list. Excel. Does sort of look more like a grid, but I think it's just flex. So we got this bit here and this bit here. It's interesting. How are those sized up inside there? Home easy tile. What's an easy tile? I think this is all just bullshit for Flex Start. What is justify content again? Just means left align it. Min height 150. Okay, if you take that off, does it? Yep. And it's more auto height. Which looks like so this is just like a wrap grid with, are these all, what the fuck is going on here? There's 1, 2, 3 layers before we get into, yes, all 6 of them in one box, and it is wrapped, right? It's just, yep, layout row wrap, huh. So layout is just a flex thing. That's kind of weird. I'm still confused why there's a flex class and a layout class. Layout, which is basically, well, the flex, does it do, yeah, it does. No, it doesn't display flex. Flex is just to grow. Huh. Huh, huh, huh. It's kind of interesting. Flex is almost like a verb to like grow, like flex yourself. But you know, they use layout to force the actual display flex property, which then causes the children to be flexible. And then they use that flex property to control, sort of more of like a flex child property to control the, looks like the basis and the growing and the max width. MD8. Seems like this is sort of like a Twitter bootstrap type certain number of column deep, you know, intervals or whatever. Trying to remember how Bootstrap did its sizing or whatever. Let's look at this one real quick. So layout is display flex and wrap. And these are flex grow 1-1 auto. Which probably should be default. What is default flex? I believe it's like 1. Also, I forget what the default is, but flex 1 is like a shorthand, I believe, for 110 or something. I don't know. The way it works is always super confusing to me. And the basis property and like how that works is always also quite confusing. But anyways, you have 4 wrapping things. They have a min height, I'm guessing. No, these don't. Why not? Maybe there's something inside that does. There's a padding bottom of 50%. Does 229, 229, 252. 252. I think Flexbox automatically equalizes this height to match that one. Not that it really matters in this case, because you wouldn't see it otherwise, but if there's like a background on it, you would. Well, we could add background white, and then see that this one's not tall enough. I mean, its container is tall enough. The fact that there's padding on these items is kind of weird to me. It's like, well, if you're trying to go with strong margins, this thing's not gonna line up properly. Like if you put a background GBA 0.1, just to put a light to see where that is. Everything's kind of inset because of that padding on there. I'm not sure why that's there. Maybe it's for something else somewhere else. Maybe they just thought it looked better to like make it breathe. It definitely makes it breathe a lot more. But like, it just doesn't seem like the right way to do it. You could put the padding on this thing. It was 12 pixels, or how about 1M? It doesn't really make much of a difference. Why not? There is no padding on this, is there? Maybe the especially here. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I've been doing more design in Figma than web, and so using Flexbox kind of adaptively for whatever situation you want and figuring out how it's going to do all the things. There's a lot of weird quirks that kind of arise as you try and make these things work. And again, it's kind of like, how do you get one simple system to work in as many situations as you can, so that's kind of cool but tricky. Like, how does it know how far to scroll and when to? It just scrolled back on its own. Maybe on resize it decides to, yeah, decides to reset itself. Kind of interesting. Alright, let's look at the code, mainly for this code breakdown right here. Ooh, it's Vue. That's interesting. I didn't know Vue was as popular as React. A lot of people using this, apparently. I'm wondering if there's like examples. Man, what a community, huh? Imagine what you could do with that kind of following. They could make a new Google. I mean, this thing could like take over the internet overnight if they had the right leadership to just do the right stuff. Make it work. I mean, that's kind of the downfall of these open source collectives, is that everyone just does a really small amount and then how it kind of just very slowly moves forward, but there's not enough like push to make it into a new Wikipedia, for example. I like that it's not TypeScript, though. Lord knows I hate TypeScript. Let's see what kind of code we can see in here. The server is here. It's using require instead of imports, which is not my favorite. See, I strongly prefer object-oriented everything. Just like import and use new. Like, it shouldn't be so complicated to figure out, like, wait, what is this? What is it doing? Like, I don't know what this... Well, this is just a Pojo, but... What is this? Okay, we're importing something. Now if we want to figure out, like, what this does or is, we gotta go... Not very intuitive. What's SVC? Config service? I don't know. A lot of just init stuff. What is the process? The process is a default node thing, I guess. Not sure what that does. This might be like wiki kernel shutdown. What the fuck? Anyway. Let's see if I can figure out. Okay, the client's going to be a lot of view stuff. Client app, index app, index legacy. It's using SCSS preprocessor. Interesting. So it looks like their whole CSS system, which I'm guessing powers their homepage too, is all based on... What? Maybe it's not. Maybe they have a special theme for that. Looks like there's not much in there. Okay. So what is doing most of the stuff? Like, here's some UI stuff. I don't know much about how it works, but I'm guessing like the client is like this big UI app and it integrates with the server, and so to figure out what it's actually... Really? There's 2 modules? I thought there was going to be a ton of shit in there. Storage, editor. Crazy. No idea where this thing is. Where does it live? This looks like it's pointing to a components folder. Oh, right here. Okay, not modules, they're components. All the view components. Editor. What does the editor look like? Ew. A script tag with imports and HTML in the same file. I mean, I suppose it's not terrible, but then you just get all the strange syntax where it's like, what the fuck is it doing? How is it processing this? We have a whole special syntax. We're calling what looks like a function, but I don't know if that's what's going on. A nav header, passing in an unquoted string, it looks like. Template slot equals mid. I mean, I'm sure this can't be that hard to learn, but like, this is foreign to me, and I don't know if I want to try and... I'm guessing that it's like Pareto. 80% of this template language would probably be really quick to learn. But then that 20% of like just, well, this looks like it could potentially be like a evaled string. $T. It looks like a function call with a string passed in, and this does look like JavaScript inside these curly braces. How that's actually working, who knows? It would seem to me that it's either evaluating these expressions with a fake JavaScript engine, or it's got to eval them to get the browser to do it. But either way is kind of questionable. I don't know much about Vue. Well, so Lodash, that's an old friend. Haven't seen that in a few minutes. Have no idea what Pathify does. Epic Spinners, okay. I'm guessing that's just like a UI component. Status indicator, yeah, probably another UI component. Editor store. Register module. Components. So components has an editor folder that has a whole folder full of shit in there. Okay. Probably put this editor file in that folder if I were you, but okay. Props. So these are likely bindable properties or something that like the template uses to render. Are these present up here? God, this is so hard to read. Like, what am I looking at? Like, this is the markup, but like, what is pug? So maybe that's not part of Vue. Maybe this is a... Does Vue use pug? Oh man, I have no coffee. What do I drink? That just seems like a mistake to me, to make a bunch of your shit in some sort of crazy templating language where, I don't know, maybe it's common to do things this way, but get and sync from what is Vuex Pathify? I don't really feel like digging into that, to be honest. So what I do feel like doing is figuring out what kind of layouts I need/want. Where were those triple columns? These little blocks here. Generally, I think these just break down into a full stack at some point. They shrink. Ooh, no, they wrap, and so this must be, is it a grid? Layout grid. So doing responsive columns with CSS Grid is not something I'm familiar with. I have used Grid minimally and doing like you know, there's some funky business with the grid that is entirely not intuitive to me at all. And I could do something very similar where it stretches the third column out like that. You could do that with flex just as easily. I don't know if there's any advantage to using grid here. So, yep, and then they go down to one column. And they center them. I don't know, centering it's fine. I guess left aligning them kind of sucks because then, well, like you do kind of need to limit the width. You don't want it to sprawl out if you didn't limit the width on these. So is there a container or are they doing it for each one? Holy shit. Max width. Oh my god. They're limiting the width of each one of these items. Max width on this exact paragraph. Holy fuck. What a management nightmare. If you want to go back, you have to change like CSS in 12 places. It's crazy. Because then they have it again on this one. I guess this is a why choose us heading. Okay, why choose this? So these are all the same. I thought it was specifically targeting each heading, but I guess it's reused. But anyway, that's interesting. Who's that guy? Responsive video. I think it's generally responsive automatically. They just do like a iframe style, width 100%, height 100%. Interesting. How does the... Are they using CSS to adjust the height? What is jumping here? It's that button up there. Also, they'd have to be controlling width. What is this? Placeholder, okay. How do they control the height of this thing, though? Padding top. That's how they're doing it. 56%. So I think this is like an aspect ratio hack where you pad with percentage, which is basically using the width. So it's like 50% of the width becomes the height. And then this iframe just fills that area. It does this little like, you know, as it redraws the video, it's a little slow, and then there's like that border flashing. It's not terrible. I mean, most people aren't resizing their browser, so you wouldn't normally notice it, and it's only for a second. I guess that's a acceptable loss. Yeah, the worst part about Webflow is it's like it's a great, well, it's not the greatest tool in terms of like learning how it works, but it is a pretty good tool in the sense that you can do a lot of stuff with it if you figured out how to use it properly, which I have not. It took me a long time, and it was just confusing to me. Anyway, the other drawback to it is that it cannot do web apps. Like if you, I mean, you could try and port your code off of Webflow, but it's not like you want to make a web app with it and then use it for your designing your UI, in my opinion. This is kind of funky how it's like just floating here in the middle. Max width on the wrapper kind of holds it in the middle there. Now it starts to shrink. Now the whole thing just blows up. I mean, it's not bad. That avatar photo there probably shouldn't wrap at that point, but it's probably an uncommon pixel width where nobody caught it. That's where it, you know, just really strong layout that doesn't do funky stuff like that. Now, I mean, I don't know, what's the alternative? You'd have to hide it somehow. I think you'd probably just put a min width on that box so that it doesn't do that, and then this box has to wrap, which it kind of does here for a minute, but it could wrap, it could squish down even more, like I think, and then this could, anyway, I don't know, it's kind of whatever. So Yeah, so generally, like 2-column layouts, 2+ column layouts are kind of what I'm lacking. There's 3. There's 2. I don't know if having a 1/3 column go to full width is the right option there. Isn't that what that's doing here? It's a 1/3 column, but it's a very small 1/3 column. And then when it goes full width, it's left aligned, right? Isn't that what I saw? Yeah, okay. That's kind of wonky. It's actually, it's not a terrible experience, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this big dead space. It's kind of weird. That's kind of cool. Those little hover bars. I'm not sure it does anything. It's a little, like, distracting. Like, wait, whoa, what's going on here? But it definitely looks kind of cool. So, yeah, 1/3 columns breaking down to full width like that. That's tricky. And you could center it or something. Yeah, maybe centering it would be better. But that, well, is the icon left aligned, or do you actually center the text? Like, you could have left aligned text and center the whole thing, so it's still left aligned, but that's kind of weird. So yeah, that's just an interesting kind of one of those. Not really sure what else you can do. How does Wiki.js? Where did it go? Wiki.js. They redirect now to js.wiki. Kind of crazy. Didn't know there was a .wiki extension. Where are their 3-column layouts? Let's try modules. Yeah, so for these, I think they weren't fluid and they just break hard at certain points. It's kind of weird. Let's see if there's like docs. Sure, 2.0. I've seen this before, and these are so wide that it just, like, obviously my monitor's extra wide, but this layout gets a little funky on such a giant screen. It's pretty nicely designed. These little bits are pretty cool. Nice and clean. The arrow doesn't twirl it, which I kind of was expecting. Authentication. Modules. Yeah, see, like, just trying to learn this thing already, it just, oh my god, I'm throwing up in my mouth. This nav is really unclear to me. Like, what the heck is sidebar root, main menu? Whoa, bro. Alright, let's try this again. Authentication. Okay, now, that's weird, because that wasn't there a second. It wasn't doing that, was it? I thought I clicked on authentication and it did something a lot different. Can I just go back to it? There was something else going on. It was, yeah, maybe it was more like that. Okay. It was this one. Authentication. Now we have slash sidebar dot root authentication. It's like a breadcrumb, I think. Current directory. Maybe this is file system based. That would be cool, but because it kind of sounds like it. This is so close to the sidebar here. It needs to breathe. Sidebar root. Home. So yeah, I think it starts in this mode, but if you change to the main menu, then you get this mode. That's kind of weird. That was very confusing. It wasn't clear at all what happened there. Did it, like, it switched the entire mode? I thought the main menu just brought me to the home thing. Whoa. Giant image. Yeah, so the text, I believe, is just going to keep going all the way across the screen, which is not right. That shouldn't happen. See if we can find a page that has text that, you know, all these lines of text are just, you know, there hasn't been a paragraph yet that's long enough to show what I'm talking there. Look at how long wide this paragraph is. This violates the comfortable reading width. So you definitely don't want to do that. I mean, these little boxes over here are kind of cool. I've seen, you know, a lot of apps have like sidebars. That's kind of cool. You have this, it's like a sticky sidebar here. You have this bit that scrolls up underneath. That's kind of a cool UX, although you kind of have, it's not really clear. Like, you got this title and subtitle and breadcrumbs and nav and yeah, kind of like too much nonsense and not enough like substance. Maybe, I don't know. Navigation mode. I think the best way to learn a system is to just design a new one. It's like, it could take you years to figure out everything that they've done and try and figure out why they did it that way. And then, like, is that the right way? Probably not. They did it one way, but is that the way that's going to make sense and work for you? Probably not. So then at the end of the day, like, you got to spend all this time reconfiguring what they give you. And certainly some aspects are going to be sped up, but I think a lot of points, this little table here is kind of cool, but it almost seems like these should be like accordions or something. It's based on 4 concepts. It's more just like a list of words, but it creates this giant table that comes way over here. I mean, again, obviously my screen is bigger than the average screen, the normal screen. Whoa, that was kind of weird. It jumps. Was there a certain width? Did I just resize? Oh no, it's just like it does a two-step shrink, shrink, disappear, shrink, disappear. Crazy. Why is that happening? That's crazy. Oh, Michael, what am I doing with my life? Do I need more energy drink? That's what I feel like. My whole body aches. Kind of. Normally, I'd go for like a run in one of these circumstances. So like, just put my body through some cardio, clears the brain. But I was at the gym yesterday and pretty sore, and don't think going for a run is going to help anything. Or at least I'm going to feel worse than I started. Well, I do think I've experienced some pretty decent UI examples, kind of dug in. Let's see how they do this. So their 3 columns don't have paragraphs. Let's see if we can find a page that has. Yeah, see, they don't have a lot of people are going with this centered homepage. It's not a bad idea. It's just you have like, okay, so this is, you know, first margin, left margin is here. Second left margin is here. Third left margin is here. Fourth is here. Fifth is here. When you center things, that's what happens. Is like you get this, you know, these curves all over the page where it's going in and out and in and out and in and out. I'm sure I can find in my little UI folder here. The one that kind of stands out was this site here. Boom. Well, obviously these are super hard margins where you have the boxy site where it's like, you know, you actually have just a solid boundary. I mean, I actually really like this site. It's very clean. Is that an image, or is that... Like, this is clearly a hoverable button, but I can't... It might just have like a user select none on there. Maybe that is... Well, the fact that this text wraps around makes me think that these are like actual... But they're all different widths. It's kind of weird. Challenge. There's so many of these, like, people make websites or services or whatever for all kinds of shit. These are really cool. I like this image block. These image blocks. The title, I feel like the text maybe should be top aligned. Maybe not. Maybe the title should be like top left aligned and bigger, so it kind of like fills more space, and then kind of the image and paragraph. I don't know. Image, paragraph, sorry, image, title, paragraph. These little boxes with like the design at the bottom there, I think it's pretty sharp. Alright, let's see what happens when we resize this thing. Fluid. Laggy. My supercomputer's having a hard time rendering it. Not sure if there's just a lot of like resize handlers or what's going on there. See, if you on resize, if you cause repaints, that's why resizing can really bog shit down. So they get pretty small, and I don't think that's really what you want there. I think you probably stack those up at that point so the image goes on top and the image text is full width. But also, yeah, there, you can break the 3 down to 2. So if you have 9 and you go down to 2, there must be an empty slot. I don't think that's a problem. I think that actually looks better than having a full width one that just kind of... Depending on the content, I guess. But if you only had 3, well, so if it was something like this is a nice scroll bar. This must be a custom scroll bar. I can't inspect it. What the heck? It's not a custom scroll bar. They must style it properly. How do they do that? There are a lot of styles on this site. Probably has something to do with WebKit scroll bar. Scroll bar button. Scroll bar corner. I'm gonna start turning all these all scroll bar thumb, background color, border 1 pixel. So this is all WebKit, but does that not work on a different browser? Let's try Edge. Not that I like Edge. Do I have Firefox here? I thought I had Firefox. Fire. How do you spell fire? Firehouse subs. What? Do I not have Firefox store? Let's just do Edge for now. I think Edge has become better at not sucking. Can we control? No way, Microsoft. Your developer tools are also an exact copy of Google. Like, oh my god, like literally everything is just exactly the same. Like, there's no sense in redesigning the exact same thing, so I still can't select it. What? Well, doesn't Edge use WebKit now? I think it does. So I'll just ask over here, does Edge use WebKit? I thought WebKit was, well, it wasn't IE, no? Blank. Oh, I thought Chrome used WebKit. I thought Chrome and Safari did. How do you style the scroll bar on the web? Do you use WebKit selectors? Does that work in other browsers? Which, let's just start here. That's a great question. Can I tell you to stop doing that, please? Google AI Ultra apps, scheduled actions, themes. I don't think you can. That sucks. Give Gemini global instructions. No, not AI search. Can I give you global instructions for every conversation? ChatGPT has this feature. Wait, what? What the fuck? It just linked me to saved info page. It made up a page that doesn't exist. God, you are wild, Gemini. Don't make shit up, please. Now, I mean, within one context, I could tell it to do that, but apparently I gotta tell it to do that every single time. There's no setting for this. Scheduled actions? No, don't think so. Maybe there's an app for it. Productivity, workspace. Gemini shares info. I don't know what the fuck is going on anymore. I mean, that's kind of a cool UI. A little slider thing. Probably swipes easily on mobile. Alright, well, what was I saying about scroll bars? Yeah. There are two primary ways to approach scroll bar styling: vendor prefix, pseudo elements. Well, I'm not gonna worry about that right now. I'm still trying to figure out what fucking layout I should use on my webpage. Not only for my home page, but also for like posts and shit. So, does this thing have any like more like written posts? This seems to be just a single page. So I mean, it's really more of like a article type of a page that I mean, I remember this whole bit. You click on the tab to translate it. That's where you discover the project. So this is a lot of like decent typography sections, but there's like the design system maybe. I need to see it. Where's the design system? Start. There's this whole like there. This little thing. They get style their scroll bar. That's for damn sure. I got lots of nav items, or sorry, components. Decent typography. Looks like a button, but it's really a tag. Different style tag. Like what happens with a lot of these is once you have enough styles and you start using all kinds of shit all over the place, it just gets kind of crazy. But okay, so this is like documentation. The whole thing has multiple tabs. Interesting. I think, yeah, the whole thing, right? Can't really see the bottom of it. Yep, the whole friggin' page has different tabs. That's hiding a lot of content in a tab. And the nav doesn't change with that. I guess it doesn't really need to, but nav scroll, this says variation of sidebar. It is a side navigation bar that using a list of anchors allows you to create a table of contents that allows you to quickly jump to sections and content on the same page. I have no idea how that really differs. It's not clear to me. Don't really feel like figuring it out, but so I guess my gut feeling here is that there's so much design potential, so many widgets, components, layouts, styles, kind of the whole experience, and it's not clear to me at all what I'm looking for. Okay, so here's a hard margin. This white page here creates like this line that exists for at least a good part of the site. Probably should line up with this one up here. I'd probably put that button aligned with it all. You know, like once you establish the margin and you kind of stick to it, then you just get like, well, you get something like challenge where you have, I mean, this one's boxy, so it kind of, I wouldn't say it cheats, but it's got its own. So you can have multiple hard margins. You can have like an actual boxy thing. I'd actually consider doing that just because, I don't know, it. So because I've been trying to think about how to use the full width on my monitor, putting the whole website into a box like that, I'd say it's for more of like a presentational website, for like a company website or like a very, you know, specific page on a website or something. But I kind of like the full width header, or at least layout potential, the ability to maybe use the entire screen space rather than center it. But, you know, in terms of the hard margins, okay, here's a nice hard margin. You have the side of the box that lines up with the button and the grid, and okay, now we break it and we jump way over here. And now this thing is offset by this thing. Lining those up isn't absolutely necessary. It's kind of a different area, so I think you can get away with that. But like, this is here, this is here, this is here. The more you jump around, the more it just kind of kills those margins. Is this... Oh, you can side swipe it here. Interesting. You know, it looked cut off. It is cut off. Not sure if that was the intention. Maybe it is so that you can kind of get the feeling that there's this button here. I kind of feel like this is like a custom, this isn't really like a template. Seems like it's a company or something. It's either knowledge, but it's a different website. So whenever you have those, like, so that was a new page. I think that's part of the, it flashes white, opens up a new page, loads that page. Kind of a jarring experience. Like, do you want, it's sort of like slapping your viewer in the face. It's like, boom. Didn't see that coming, did ya? Here's some more illustrations. I would assume these guys created these. Maybe they pulled them from this, whatever this knowledge base is powered with. I would assume this is like an externally managed thing. There is no like... Maybe they just made it a subdomain. Maybe this is a custom website. Typography's a little iffy here. Spacing. But kind of, I mean, it's not a bad... Alright, so you got this giant banner at the top that's fully full width. Got the left, so when you have this left thing way over here and then the content over here, it's just a little separate. But, you know, the alternative is, well, if you left align your content next to the nav, then it either has to be full, you know, just some massive width column like on the wiki bit. Where was the wiki bit? This thing. Either, whoops, either the text goes, you know, your content goes like across the whole friggin' screen, or you limit it, but like then having left aligned content, there's a nice scroll bar. How did they do that one? It hides when you're not hovered it. That's awesome. And it actually hides when you stop moving for a second. There must be some sort of hover intent that hides it, I would imagine. I don't know. So I mean, I kind of thinking I need to draw these out, but creating some shitty drawings is not gonna necessarily help me anything. I don't know if I can think this through without seeing it. Well, let me just take some notes. That's probably an easy way. F11, wait for that thing to disappear. Actually, let's go F11, F11, print screen. Did we get that X there? Let's see what Figma looks, what this is gonna look like in Figma. So it looks like the layout notes. Yeah, we did get the X, whatever. So full width text. It's hard to read. What else was I thinking? There's something about centered content that's kind of cool. But if you have a left sidebar, where was that? Knowledge base, yeah. Let's do one of these. I think we got that to exit full screen bit, but whatever. Yeah. So sometimes Notion starts double duplicating centered content plus left. I should say far left nav. Tricky. Bad. What else was I thinking? Well, so it's like, do you need a left nav? Not necessarily. So presentational content is just fundamentally different than like well, I don't know, like structured content, I guess. Firefox is good at taking website screenshots. You can like right click on any page and just copy screenshot, and it takes a giant screenshot for you. Fortunately, Figma's not smart enough to paste the whole thing in. It like limits you to 4,000 pixels. I could probably create like a JavaScript snippet that would allow me to paste a Firefox screenshot in, and I don't know, maybe save it somewhere or something. I don't know. I would like to create a Figma, but I gotta just get basic layouts working first. I don't know, I gotta get over my whole, like, all these questions about, like, presentational content, structured content. Well, so that Italian site is let's do it the honor of being full. Whoa, full. I think we got it. Let's see. Yeah. Just do this. Like blends in too much. I don't know if that makes it any better, but anyway, should probably have just framed them both together. In fact, let's just do it. Alright, so layout. What do we got? I mean, the simplest layout is just 2 columns that stack up, essentially. And shouldn't that be able to do, well, so with 2 columns, if you have like 1 and 2, and then they go stack up, whoops, then they get really tall. If you have like 2 small columns, or whatever, well, let's just say they're kind of more like wide columns, could be the same width as this, and then they stack up, then they're, I don't know, maybe not as tall. I don't know if that really matters. The thing is, like, if you have 2 columns like this and they start getting tall, then it's like, well, how tall? And they're probably not going to be even, so then if you have uneven content, it's going to look funny. So I'd probably stay away from doing 2 giant columns. It's more like for kind of more structured, uniform type shit where you have a paragraph and a little title and a paragraph, or maybe an icon or image or something, like those UI cards or whatever. You know, these little bits here where it's like a title, paragraph, button, or whatever. It's kind of a cool looking button. I like it. It's like a pill. It's got some slight gradient to it and italic caps text. And that button next to it, it's kind of like an alternative button. Like if you're not ready to sign up, you could do this other thing. Play the video or do this other thing. Alright, so what kind of layout do I want for my website? The problem is like, I don't know. I don't really know what content I would put on the website. Some websites, I don't know. I think there was one that I bookmarked the other day. Let's see if I can find it. It might be in my UI thing here. Nope. I must not have bookmarked it. It was some guy's website. It was like a blog, and this isn't it, but this is another one that could be. Yeah, this one's kind of cool. It's pretty well designed. So here's just centered content, big old blog post. I don't know. I've thought about writing posts like this. And so, I mean, if it's on topic and SEO friendly, then people can find it and it's not necessarily bad. Or, you know, it's not necessarily a waste of time. It could pay off in the long run. Whoa. This box causes the text to jump, which I don't think is... Oh, it's that little square link, like, icon that appears after the word world that causes all the text to jump. I don't think it did that before. Maybe he added that. Anyway, titles are cool. Have a nice background effect on them. Got some code formatting here. These link blocks are crazy. Holy smokes. A lot going on there. It even animates from one to the next. I don't know if I like that. It's a little jarring, but this is all about drag and drop. I remember he advised... Basically, the conclusion here is don't use the HTML5 drag and drop API. Which you kind of have to use if you want, like... If you want to be able to drag stuff from, like, the Windows file system, you know, drag a file into a browser and then use it, then you have to, but my drag and drop does not. Man, that's... It's kind of a lot going on. Not sure what's going on there that causes all this flickering. Maybe it's intended that way. The way that animates around is kind of cool. Sometimes you have to be like quick, I guess, before it disappears. I'm getting a little not sure who this guy is, but a lot of posts. I mean, the image aspect of them, like these title cards, are pretty damn cool. Like you get that could be interesting. You get like a visual taste of, you know, it's a pretty cool blog actually, but holy fuck, there's a lot of posts. A lot of these don't have images. These are probably old, maybe migrated from a different site or something before he started doing that. Well, so like, yeah, I mean, I got plenty of these like, oh my god. Get out of here. Image cards. Is this about like shutting down your company? Jeez, that's crazy font. So most websites aren't catered for big monitors. One that I know is YouTube. Fills out the whole thing. Oh look, it's the trans guy. It's so stupid. My super magnet? The heck?
Ooh, that's nuts. It totally just opposes gravity. It's as hard as I can do it. This odd shape is perfect for dropping on top of it. It'll just sit there if we balance it right. Who knew metal could be so fun? What if I spin it? Yeah, that's cool.
Not sure what's special about his magnet. Well, anyway, so YouTube stretches shit out to be the full width. Some weird shit going on, folks.
not thousands of videos of beheaded Palestinian babies and children, Palestinian children with severed limbs, killed by Israel. And not a single corporate media outlet has reported on how Israel has systematically beheaded Palestinian children on a daily basis for the last 15 months. And yet every single one of these Western media outlets was so quick to spread the mass atrocity propaganda in order to manufacture consent for Israel's genocide by repeating a story about an incident which never took place.
We have some really disturbing new information out of Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister's spokesman just confirmed babies and toddlers were found with their heads decapitated.
I choked up earlier reading this new revelation about 40 babies being killed.
Oh my God.
And some of them being beheaded. And I was like, how can any human being do that to a baby?
So what message does that send? That mythical beheaded babies, because they were Israeli, are to be reported on when the incident never happened, but that Palestinian babies and children, when they're beheaded and their limbs are severed and they're found hanging from trees with half of their body missing, that they are not worth the coverage to report on their experience, on their premature death at the hands of Israel and the United States. Did you know that Israeli occupation forces tied explosives to the body of an 80-year-old Palestinian man who was forced to clear booby-trapped houses, and once they released him, they shot and killed him and his wife? Did you know that Israeli soldiers were captured on film raping a Palestinian hostage? And when news of this came to light, Israeli far-right politicians and soldiers and ordinary people protested outside of the facility where the soldier was being held, demanding that he be released. And in parallel, the Israeli Knesset engaged in debates on the right of Israeli soldiers to rape Palestinian hostages.
תרלול הזה, שיש מי שבפרקליטות חושב שאפשר לבוא ולעצור חיילים על דברים שעושים למחבלי נוח'בה, לא נגמר. אנחנו לא יכולים להמשיך כרגיל.
להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו. הכל! הכל!
One of the soldiers who was involved in the rape had a media tour all around Israeli media stations and took off his ski mask and was revered as a national hero by members of Israeli society. Did you know that a young Palestinian boy by the name of Saddam Rajab was killed in the occupied West Bank after an Israeli occupation soldier shot him in the stomach? Even though the evidence is right there, it was still responded to by supporters of Israel as being fake or being what they call Pallywood, because not only does Israel kill Palestinians with impunity, but Israel's supporters, to believe that their ideology is morally justified, when they do see images of Israel's policies against Palestinians, they just claim that they're fake, that they didn't happen, that they're made up entirely by Palestinians to claim global sympathy. Did you know that Israeli occupation forces recently killed a 2-year-old Palestinian girl by the name of Layla al-Khatib, who was sitting down to eat dinner with her family in occupied Jenin? She was shot in the head by an Israeli sniper. Not only did the Israeli sniper shoot her, but then the Israeli occupation forces prevented her and her family from rushing to get medical care, and she died. This, of course, is not an aberration.
All right, that's crazy. Man, oh man.
Tallahassee, Florida, February 4th, 1987. At first, it looked like something of a misunderstanding. 2 well-dressed men stood in a public park with 6 children. The kids looked dirty, hungry, and strangely silent. The men claimed that they were on their way to Mexico to start a school for exceptional children. But to the residents of Myers Park, something felt off. The kids weren't playing, they weren't talking, they were just watching. So someone called the police. When the officers arrived, they immediately noticed that the children were in poor condition. They were covered in bug bites, wearing old, mismatched clothes, and showing signs of malnutrition and neglect. The two men, identified as Douglas Ammerman and Michael Houlihan, said that they were teachers, but they had no identification on them. The officers pressed further. Where were the children's birth certificates? Who were their legal guardians? The men couldn't or wouldn't answer. That's when the police made the decision that would unravel one of the most disturbing government entanglements in U.S. history. They took everyone in for questioning. As authorities began digging, the story got stranger and fast. The two men were placed under arrest for child abuse and suspicion of trafficking. The children were separated for interviews. According to police reports, one child, described as around 6 years old, didn't know what a toilet was. Another asked if they were going to be put in jail like before. Some of the children said they lived in a communal house in Washington, D.C., where women were not allowed to bathe the boys, and where punishment meant silence, deprivation, and something more. The children weren't able to articulate exactly what that meant. All 6 children appeared to be suffering from psychological trauma, yet none were listed as missing in any national database. While the kids were interviewed in Florida, police in Washington, D.C. moved in on the group's known residence. What they found would shock even seasoned officers. The home, a 2-story townhouse located at 39 West Street, didn't look unusual from the outside. In fact, it blended into the neighborhood so well that many residents didn't even know it was shared by this group calling themselves the Finders. Inside, the house was cluttered with surveillance equipment, piles of computer disks, maps, journals. In one room, officers discovered a telex machine, basically a relic of early digital communication. It was hooked up to foreign embassies. In another room, they found photographs, children tied up in strange positions that looked ritualistic. Even many photos were labeled and cataloged as if part of a data archive. Police also recovered detailed files on child acquisition tactics, child care instructions written in code, and passports linked to destinations all over the world, including North Korea, Malaysia, and Moscow. Even more disturbing, the home contained a large hand-drawn map of underground tunnels, specifically in Washington, D.C., labeled with words like exit points, observation, and containment. I'm John Genoa. This is America's Strangest History. Tonight we dive into a mysterious group called the Finders. A word of caution: this story isn't for the faint of heart and bears shocking similarities to the Jeffrey Epstein case. The similarities are so incredible, I'll just let you judge for yourselves. Back in Tallahassee,
I probably can't stream this without getting a strike, in fact. Surprised it hasn't already. Well, it might later. So